leave it just like that.
Oh, 380?
380.
Sir, just one more time.
That's not big.
Slide to the rear. No magazine. Nothing in the chamber. No ammunition.
All right now.
Okay. All right. All right. So, what I want to make sure that I have an understanding of, this is not a shooting class. We're not teaching you how to shoot. That's for another time when you seek range time or go to an instructor. This is more for your safety. What's happening out here in the world, we always hear about the bad guys with the guns. But what we never ever talk about are the good guys with the guns. We never talk about that. That seems to be a taboo subject. A taboo subject that we are going to start talking about just a little bit more. Because you have a right to protect yourselves in your homes and while you're out on the street. So we're going to follow along as on our agenda. Who knows the Second Amendment? Who can recite the Second Amendment? Do we know what the Second Amendment is? The right to bear arms. So the Second Amendment was actually formed so that a well-organized militia can have can keep and bear arms in their homes so that they can fight against a tyrannical government that came about when they wrote the Constitution. And one of the amendments to the Constitution was the people should have that right not infringed upon so that they could fight against a tyrannical government. And at that time, the tyrannical government was who? England. England, King George. He sent soldiers over to do what? Right. So that's how America gained its independence. But one of those rights is so that the people can have those arms, to be able to form a militia to fight against a tyrannical government. So that's where the Second Amendment comes in. That gives you, as citizens of this country, the right to bear arms under certain circumstances and under certain laws of the state. Anybody ever hear of the Castle Doctrine? The Castle Doctrine. The Castle Doctrine is this. The government says, actually the state of Illinois says, you have a right to protect your home. That is your castle. You are the kings and the queens of your castle, and you have the absolute right to protect that. Now, some states don't have a castle doctrine. They have some things that there's a duty to retreat. In other words, even if someone is breaking into your home, you are legally obligated to retreat from that confrontation and figure out how best to defend yourself unless circumstances dictate that you have nowhere to retreat to and you have absolutely no choice but to use a firearm or any other kind of weapon. Illinois was the final state in the Union to allow for concealed carry. But we are a castle doctrine state that will allow you to defend your home by any means necessary. Okay? So that is the castle doctrine that is explained. But there's a lot more to that with the laws and all that. And Lieutenant Mayton is going to explain that in his PowerPoint presentation. But before I turn it over to him, does anyone have any questions for me before I come back up? Okay, thank you very much.
All right, good evening. I don't know if any of you guys recognize me. I used to come to a lot of these, but I've been just signed out for the last couple of years. I can talk about this forever. I mean, the concealed carry classes are 16 hours. So I'm going to give you guys kind of a brief overview. What I think is most important, just to kind of give you an understanding. So the stuff we're going to throw at you tonight is, we're just kind of briefly touching on everything. Okay? It's not an in-depth course. I talk about use of force, and use of force is what? What's use of force when I say use of force? It's when you can and cannot shoot, right? And that's really one of the big things we need to know, right? Because if you shoot somebody and you're not justified, what could happen to you? Right? Or vice versa, you're not sure and you hesitate, right? So all the stuff that I'm going to talk about, I'm going to talk for about an hour and turn it over to the chief. This stuff is you're going to learn if you've taken concealed carry course. Has anybody taken a concealed carry course? So for the FOID card, anybody? Okay, you guys take it. So for a FOID card, you don't need a course. FOID card gives you the right in Illinois. That's a firearms identification card. Okay, we're one of the only states that have that. So when they talk about, you always watch it here on the news, the gun show loophole. They did that at the gun shows. We really don't have that gun show loophole in Illinois because in order to purchase a firearm, you have to have a FOID card, which means they'll do a background check on you. So you do not have to take any classes to get your FOID card. That gives you your right, your constitutional right, to have a gun in Illinois, to purchase a gun in Illinois in your home, or to transport it to a gun range, or to your friend's house, right? Transportation. So that gives you the right to own it and transport it. And if you own a gun, or if you own ammunition, you must have that gun, that FOID card on you when that gun's on you, okay? You always have that FOID card with you. So when you go to the gun range, you got to carry that FOID card with you. So I'll talk a little bit about that. But I suggest that if you guys all do plan on getting guns, take a class. Take a class. Go over to Chuck's. Go over to the place in Oak Forest. All these gun ranges, they'll recommend someone who teaches this stuff. And especially if you've never used that, right? How come? You're not comfortable with it?
No, I'm okay.
You're going to the gun range? Just haven't used that one. So, if someone taught you how to do it, if someone just like your brother or your uncle taught you how to use a gun, you might not be taught properly, right? So now you go out and buy a gun, and you don't know how to use it, how to load it, how to unload it, how the safety works. When you're in a critical incident, someone's breaking down your door, and you go and get that gun, and you're shaking, right? Because you're going to be scared, right? Big gun. You better be able to know how to use that. And if you haven't practiced, and if you never took a class or learned how to use it properly, you're going to have problems. You're going to be in trouble. Okay? So that's my suggestion. What I'm going to talk about today is a couple of things, part of the law that we're going to look at. I talked about the FOID card. Okay? The law says no person may acquire or possess any firearm, stun gun, or taser within the state without having in his or her possession a firearms identification card previously issued by his name by the state police. Same with ammo, okay? So it says you have to have it with you. Now, if you have a concealed carry card, that will act as your FOID card. In fact, I think they just started mending the two together. So if you get a concealed carry, or if you get a FOID, it'll say concealed carry holder on it, okay? To transport your card, obviously, those of you who brought your firearms, the transportation laws, there's a lot of confusion, and there's always been a lot of confusion in Illinois with the transportation laws. The transportation laws, there was two different laws in Illinois. We had a Conservation Act, and then we had the Illinois state law. Illinois state law says this. The Illinois state law says you must be in possession of a FOID card. It must be in a case. And it has to be unloaded. Okay? Unloaded in Illinois means nothing in the chamber and the magazine out of the gun, right? Doesn't mean that the gun has to be separated from the ammo has to be separated. Could you have a full magazine, an empty gun, sitting in the same case? Closed? Yes. Does it have to be locked? No. Right? As long as it's in a case, as long as it's unloaded, and as long as you have your FOID card. Those are the three things that you must have in Illinois to transfer your gun. So when you're going to the range, make sure you don't forget your case. Now, what could be a case? A case could be a backpack, a bag, any case, right? Could be your glove compartment. Illinois law, it was always, there was a Conservation Act. Used to be up to maybe 10 years ago, if you got pulled over by the police and you had a gun in your glove compartment, and the police stopped you for going through a red light, and said, "Hey, sir, can I see your driver's license insurance card?" He said, "Oh yeah, my insurance card is in my glove compartment." And you pop it open, and there's a gun there. The officer says, "Well, is that a gun in your glove compartment?" "Yes, but officer, I've got a FOID card, and it's unloaded, and it's in that case. I'm not in violation of the Illinois state statute." They say, "You are not. Congratulations. Please step up because you're under arrest for the violation of the Conservation Act." Because the Conservation Act always said that it had to be zipped, buckled, tied, It specifically said what a case was, and it had to be designed to carry a firearm. That's no longer the case. So for all people who always thought that, that's no longer the case. Right now, this is all we got to follow. FOID card, case, and unloaded. Everybody got that? All right. All right. So those of you, when you get your concealed carry, or if you do get your concealed carry, or if you have it in your car, today you're on your way home, you get stopped by a police officer. If you have a concealed carry, and a police officer stops you or approaches you on the street or on a traffic stop, your obligation is, if the officer asks you if you have a gun, you must tell them that you do. You cannot hide that from them. The law specifically states, the officer of law enforcement initiates an investigative stop, including but not limited to a traffic stop, if the licensee was carrying a concealed firearm. Upon the request of the officer, the licensee shall disclose to the officer that he or she is possession of a concealed firearm. Under this act, present the license upon the request of the officer and identify the location of the concealed firearm. So if he asks you, you must tell him. If he doesn't ask you, do you have to tell him?
Yeah.
No. This is what the law is. You do not. You do not have to tell them. Okay? Only if they ask. Now, I suggest, as a police officer, I would suggest you tell the police officer that you have a gun. Because why not? You're legally able to have it, right? That officer is conducting business, so when he runs your driver's license, it's going to show that you are a concealed carry holder and you have a valid license. And more than likely, if you have a concealed carry license and they ask you, do you have a gun on you? I don't have it on you. You're going to get a lecture. Why don't you carry your gun? There's a reason for it. Police officers are for this concealed carry. All right. I don't know any police officers who are against this concealed carry. What do you think, DJ? You for concealed carry? We know. We deal with the bad guys all the time. We know what's out there, right? I mean, you guys read the paper. So we want the good guys to win. We're for concealed carry. And that's obviously why we're having some class like this. You have the right to do this. You have the right to have a gun in Illinois. We're a shell issue state. Means you don't have to give the state a reason why you want that gun. Right? There's a lot of 37 states are shell issue. We were the last state to get, it was Wisconsin and Illinois were the last two states to get concealed carry. Wisconsin got it. We got it within a year later. We thought we were going to be a May issue state. And a May issue state is states like California, Washington, Oregon, New York, New Jersey. Those are May issue states. A May issue state says, here's what you need to get your concealed carry. You need to take a class. You can't be a felon. You can't blah blah blah, and you got to give us a good reason why you're going to carry a gun. So she says, hey, I work for Illinois Armor, and I need it for work. They say, okay, we'll give you a permit. He says, hey, there was 4 people shot on my block last week. It's getting dangerous. I need a gun to protect myself. And they said, no, that's not a good enough reason. Those are the states that say those are May issue states. And it's really hard to get a concealed carry. In New York, and this is research from a couple years ago, but it was $5,600 if you live in New York City to get a concealed carry permit. $5,600. Right? And Illinois was a shell issue state because it was a court case. There was a woman she was attacked in the basement of a church. She was a church employee. She goes to work. Some maniac comes in, robs her and a couple other people in the basement while they're doing inventory, beats her up, and she sues the state of Illinois. She says, hey, I've got my FOID card. I've taken NRA classes. I know how to use a gun. I'm a good shot. I've been shooting for a long time. I even have a permit from Florida because Florida gave out-of-state permits. I have the right, the state took my right to protect myself. And an appeal to court said, yeah, you're right. So she sued with the Illinois Association. They said, you're right, you have the right to protect yourself outside your home because you're more likely to be a victim of a crime outside your home than inside your home. Therefore, Illinois, make sure your people carry outside the home. And we became a shell issue state. And the state says, the state shall issue your permit if you apply, if you meet the requirements. So there's some requirements like you can't have a felony, you can't have 2 DUIs within 5 years, you can't have a battery within 5 years. It's pretty limited where it excludes you. And it costs $150 and you got to take a 16-hour class. That's all you got to do in Illinois. right? That gives you the right to carry a gun outside your home. And you know, with the way things are going right now, it's probably not a bad idea, right?
So my question is, so it could be clear, they have to have both the permit to carry and the other license as well, if you want to carry it on your person.
Yeah, so the concealed carry, you can apply. So if you don't have a FOID card and you go take one of these classes, go over to one of the gun shops, and you go take the concealed carry class, you can apply for both at the same time, so you can get your concealed carry and FOID card. You're able to go to the classes and shoot based on being in a class. Okay, just like you could take your friend to the gun range. You've got a FOID card. He doesn't have a FOID card. You guys could shoot. He's going to show his driver's license. And he's going to shoot off your FOID card. So you're allowed to do that. So you need both. You need to apply for both. The FOID card's good for 10 years. The concealed carry card's good for 5 years. But right now, they just merge the two together, so it's on the same card.
I don't think you really answered the question. So the 40, I can have it in my house, but I can't carry it outside.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you need the permit in order to carry it on your person, you
Right.
have both of those.
So that gives you the right. That gives you the right to keep it in your house,
Yeah.
to purchase the gun, go to the range, buy ammunition. You're not gonna be able to buy ammunition without a FOID card. All right. Any questions on that? Transferring a firearm. I get a lot of questions about this, so I want to clarify this. I know it's off the agenda, Chief, but I'm gonna keep. All right. Well, could you sell somebody a firearm, another person, or do you have to go to a gun range and buy it? So he says, I haven't shot this gun, but I really don't like it. It's a little too, the slide's a little bit too tough for me. Could you turn around today and sell that to him in this class?
Yeah.
Who thinks you
Only
can?
after you run their
Why can't you?
We have to have a background check.
Okay, what if he has a FOID card?
information.
So that is our background check. So we are allowed to do private sales. Okay, we just have to wait 3 days after discussing it to do it. So if you're at class today and he says, hey, here's my FOID card, I'll buy that off you for $300. You take his phone number, 3 days later, you call him, then you can do the transaction. Okay, there's a 3-day cooling off period because they don't want people buying. Just so as you bought it at the gun shop, you have to wait 3 days. It's safe for rifles and shotguns. It used to be 24 hours for rifles and shotguns. It's 3 days now. Okay, but we are allowed private sales. Okay, with private sales, you could sell me the gun as long as I have a valid FOID card. How do you know? I show you my valid FOID card. How do you know it's valid? How do you know I didn't get a letter saying, hey, you committed a burglary last week and you got that conviction and we're revoking it and I just didn't send it in? All right. So what you're going to do is contact the state. All right, and all this stuff's on the state. All these questions are on the state police website. You go to Google Illinois State Police, and that's how you apply for your FOID card. That's how you apply for concealed carry. And then there's a bunch of frequently asked questions. Right. The other thing is that they have firearm transfer. It says I want to transfer firearm. Click on that, and that'll give you. It'll open up a page that allows you to put my FOID card number in and my date of birth, and it'll say approved or disapproved. Then you just write that on your bill of sale. You got to keep a bill of sale when you do a transfer. So if you sell me a gun, you got to put my name, your name, the make, model, serial number of the car, the gun. You put all that on there, and then you both have to keep a copy of that for 10 years. All right, along with that approval number. All right, everybody got that? That was on January 14th. They're not running background check. You're just seeing if my FOID card's valid. So when you sell it, you're not selling it to. They're going to give you that number, right? In fact, when you do that, it's going to generate a receipt. So you can even print that out, and then you don't even have to fill out a bill of sale. It gives you a bill of sale, and you guys can do it. Or you can just write it down. I mean, you can do it on the back of a napkin if you want, but you got to have it for 10 years. Because if that gun's found on a crime or it's stolen or something like that, it's got to report. You have to have that bill of sale. Okay? You got that? If it's a family or death transfer, you don't have to do that. Say, your uncle passes away, and your aunt says, "I want all these beautiful guns out of my house tomorrow. Do you want them?" You go, "Yep, I'll take them." You don't have to fill out any forms, right? But she might not even have a FOID card, right? As long as you have a FOID card, you can take possession of those, right? And you don't have to do any paperwork. We don't have gun registration in Illinois, so you don't have to report it to Illinois. When you're going on the Illinois website for a gun transfer, you're not putting in what you're doing. You're not saying I'm selling him this gun with this serial number. All you're doing is checking to see if my card is valid, my FOID card is valid. We do not have gun registration in Illinois. It means you do not have to register your gun. All right. Some states do. So like, Connecticut got after Sandy Hook. Remember Sandy Hook?
Yes.
The school shooting. They went right after that. The lawmakers did a mandatory registration for all gun owners. The problem what happened there was they gave them a certain date. I remember watching on TV. It was like December 23rd that year, and there was lines. They were showing it on the news. There was lines at the door. The next day they said only 20% of gun owners registered their guns. So now all of a sudden you had 80% of people felonies, and that's a problem. We do not have that in Illinois. You do not have to register your gun. All right. So if I find a gun, if I stop you on the street and I run your serial number, I take your gun, you're like, I got to conceal carry it. I said, oh, okay. And I said, I'd like to see your gun, right? And you give me your gun, and I run the serial number. Who's going to come back to? Nope. There's no registration. There's no record on file. Unless that gun was stolen, it's going to say, it'll say stolen. Other than that, there's no record on file. If I find it on a crime scene, I got to do some research. I can go to the ATF and try to find out, where there's a bond. I got to jump through some hoops, but there's no gun registration, right? And if you spot that off a private individual, I got to go to that person. I got to keep trying to track that down. That's why you got to keep that receipt for 10 years. That's why it's important to keep that receipt in a safe spot if you sell your gun, right? And then temporary transfers, you don't have to do anything. I'm giving it to you to run to the range and try my new Glock 43 out. And you can run to the range and use that. It's just a temporary transfer. You're not keeping it. You're not selling it. Now, if you buy a gun for somebody and give them a permanent transfer, like, hey man, I don't have any, or I got a felony. I sold that car, I was 18. I sold that car. I haven't done anything in the last 30 years, 20 years for me. Could you buy a gun for me? You just run the checks. Here's $500. You run the checks and buy that. What's that called? That's a straw purchase. That's a problem, right? That's what ATF gets involved, right? Alcohol, tobacco, firearms. So you can't do that, right?
I have a question.
Yes.
For the temporary transfer, so for instance, I don't have a gun. If I wanted to use your gun to go to the range, I have to do a transfer?
No, it's just a temporary. This is saying you don't have to. That's an exemption. That's an exemption.
Okay.
So if you had a FOID card, I can let you use my gun.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, after, I mean, I'd be pretty hesitant to let one of my guns though, on a temporary transfer, Sorry. Your friend says, me and my husband been fighting, can I borrow your gun? All right, any questions what I've talked about so far? All right, so this is probably my favorite part to teach people is use of deadly force when you can and cannot shoot. And I'm gonna spend a few minutes on it. I'm not gonna play the video. I'm just gonna spend a little bit of time. I'm not gonna get into it too much because that's probably an 8-hour course on itself, use of force. So if you go on YouTube and you start watching use of force videos, you're going to get bad information. Why? Because the guy might be from California giving the use of force.
Yeah.
And use of California doesn't have that castle doctrine, right? We do. California, you got to run out of your house. It's just a way out. You got to leave. You got to leave your dwelling, right? Every state is different. Every state is going to be different. When you get your concealed carry, you're going to be able to walk in. I think it's 28 states, maybe 30 states, with your Illinois concealed carry. So you can go into Wisconsin. You go into Iowa, you go to Minnesota, but their laws are going to be different. So you got to follow those laws in each state. So it's a little bit more tricky. You got to go online if you're going to be up in Wisconsin. Hey, what are my, what are the rules? In Illinois, could you get a concealed carry and go to your buddy's house, have a beer? Could you have a beer and drink while you're carrying your gun? Huh? In Illinois, you can't, right? Illinois, you can. You can't be above the legal limit, whatever the DUI limit is at that time.
Yes.
Currently, it's what? 0.08, right? 0.08 is our legal limit. But say mothers against drunk driving, push that and say, hey, we need to lower the DUI limits down to 0.06. That's what the state law is going to be for concealed carry. All right? But if you go across the border to Wisconsin and you have a beer and you got your gun on, you're going to jail, right? They have zero tolerance. So you got to know that when you get this, to go whatever the state laws in each state, we're all different, right? So when you're looking at use of force and you start watching videos online, you might not be getting the right information. That's why it's probably a good idea to go to one of the classes, right? So you got to understand. And most instructors will spend a few hours on this, right? Versus, 20 minutes. All right. These we want to consider when we determine reasonable use of force. It's not deadly force, just reasonable use of force. Intent. All right, we're going to have to show this when we're defending our actions. Okay, what, you have to show that the bad guy wanted to harm you, right? Now, the bad guy can verbalize it. If I say, I'm going to stab you, what am I going to do? I'm going to stab you, right? That's either I'm going to shoot you. I can verbalize that, right? But what if I just walk up to you and go like this? What am I going to do? I'm going to hit him. I didn't say anything. I didn't say I'm going to hit you. Well, my actions could determine what my intent was. Well, he pulled a knife out and came at me. He pointed a gun at me, right? Look at this. Now, if you pull the fist out and he shoots me, you're going to have a problem, right? That's going to be a problem. But we got to show, our first thing we got to show is that the bad guy wanted, how do you know he wanted to hurt you? Well, he did this. He told me he was going to hurt me, or his actions showed me he was going to hurt me, right? By his actions. He had the intent. So if I just walk up to you and say, I'm going to kill you, and you pull out your gun and shoot me, you gonna have a problem? Yeah, right? I showed intent, right? I told him intent. I said, but what else in it? You just pull a gun. I just said I was going to kill him, and that's it. You do that again, I'll kill you, right? I showed my intent, but you need more than that, right?
Okay.
Means he must have the ability to hurt you. Okay? What made you fear for your life? Right? Pull out a knife. He has a means to do it, right?
Yes, sir.
Start walking at me. Right? That shows the intent, right? Raise his arm. Right? So you have intent and means, right? Is that good enough?
Yeah.
How would I pull the knife out?
Depending on you.
Pull my knife out. I'm going to kill you. I start wheeling my wheelchair at you. Opportunity. Does he have the opportunity to get to you?
Yes.
Okay? So I'm in my car. Guy pulls a knife out. I got my window down. Light turns green. He says, I'm going to kill you. You pull out a gun and shoot him. Could you have driven away? Nobody in front of you, right?
Yeah.
So does he have the opportunity to get to you, right? Or, you're on the corner of 159th and Harlem. It's a busy corner, right? You got to get a little bit of road rage. You pull over on the northeast side. He pulls over on the southwest side. He pulls out a knife, says, I'm going to get you. And you pull out a gun, and right? And you shoot him. You're going to have a problem, right? He doesn't have the opportunity to get to you. And you've got to show all three of the things in Illinois, right? This is determined. And this is not just justifiable force for using deadly force. This is any force, right? To defend yourself, right? You got to show the intent, means, and opportunity. In a lot of states, and it's not in Illinois, but it's going to help in Illinois when you're trying to explain what you did, is preclusion. Is there anything else I could have done? Could I have left?
Yeah.
Could I have driven away? Could I have ran away? Right? In some states like California, you must show preclusion in order to use force. Right? Illinois, we don't have that, but it's sure going to help when you're trying to explain to a state's attorney or the police that your actions were justifiable. Okay? Illinois law says this. I got too much stuff in here. Hold on. Use of force in defense of a person. A person is justified in the use of force against another when and to the extent that he really believes that such conduct is necessary. So in Illinois, we have what we call, we don't have actually like a stand your ground, but we have a reasonable man standard. What would a reasonable person do with this, right? What would most people do in this situation? Reasonable man standard. First, justify the force against another one to the extent that he reasonably believes that such conduct is necessary to defend himself or another. So you can protect your wife, right, or a stranger even, right, against such an eminent use of unlawful force. Eminent use means it's immediate use. It's happening right now, right? They have the opportunity to get to you. So that means this law says, I cock my arm back, I come up to you, he has the right to hit me and defend himself, right? And then when the police show up and I'm all bloody, I say, I didn't even hit him, you know? Well, yeah, but you were going to. I didn't have to wait for you to hit me first, right? Right? You pointed a gun at me. Well, I didn't shoot it. Okay, well, you said you were going to kill me and you pointed the gun at me. Just, you know, and you missed. Well, I intentionally missed. Oh, too bad, right?
Too bad.
It's eminent use of unlawful force. You're able to defend. It says, however, he is justified in the use of force which is intended or likely to cause death or great bodily harm. We all know what death is, right? What's great bodily harm?
Maiming, disabling.
So someone breaking your kneecaps with a baseball bat, right? Maybe if you're fighting a mano a mano, two guys are going to have a hard time justifying deadly force. But you know, me and him are fighting, and he gets on top of me and starts popping my eyeball out or something in the fight. You know, okay, that's great bodily harm. Or I got a big pot of coffee, hot coffee, boiling, steam's coming out of it, right? It says McDonald's on the side of it, right? We know that's hot, right? And I'm going to throw it in your face. That's great bodily harm, right?
Yeah.
So you have the right to, you're justified, right? So you're justified in force with an intended or likely to cause death or great bodily harm only if he reasonably believes, so that's a reasonable belief again, that such force is necessary to prevent imminent death or great bodily harm to himself or another, right? So, could you protect your neighbor? Could you protect your wife? Could you protect your child? Could you protect a perfect stranger? Yes, right? This is what our law says. It's a pretty good law in Illinois. It's giving us a way to protect ourselves. Right? This is what Illinois state statute says. So, we all know what great bodily harm is now, and then we also give a commission of a forcible felony. Okay, what's a commission of a forcible felony? What's a forcible felony? So say you could stop a forcible felony. So forcible felonies are what? Robbery, right? Someone's carjacking you, right? That's a forcible felony. You know, you're walking down the street and you hear a woman yelling in the alley, rape. You walk in there, there's some guy raping someone, and you pull your gun out. Could you shoot him? Yes, you stop if it's a forcible felony, it's rape, right? You have the ability. You don't have to be the police to do this. We have the ability as citizens to stop this, right? So for all the other forcible felonies, kidnapping, right? Someone's taking your neighbor's kid, not a child abduction, not the dad taking it, right? Not the dad taking the kid because there's a custody dispute. There's some guy pulls up in a van with a clown mask on and grabs the kid, you know, throws her bike down. And could you stop him? Yes, right? Illinois law gives the citizens the ability to do this, right? It's pretty clear cut on what Illinois law allows us to do. All right? Talk about the castle doctrine. A person is justified in use of force against another one to the extent he reasonably believes that such conduct is necessary to prevent or terminate such others' unlawful entry into or attack upon a dwelling. Okay? So it's saying that you could stop someone, you could use reasonable force to stop someone from coming to your house. Reasonable force. So, you know, your daughter's ex-boyfriend wants to come in to see her, and he said, hey, she doesn't want to see you. and he says, well, I'm going to see her anyway, and you can grab him and hold him down to the police car. Gives you that right to use that force. It says, however, this is where the cancel doctrine comes in. He is justified to use force with intended or likely to cause death or grave bodily harm only if the entry is made or attempted in a violent, riotous, or tumultuous manner, and he reasonably believes, there's our reasonable belief again, that such force is necessary to prevent an assault upon or offer personal violence to him or another in the dwelling. Okay? It gives you the right protection of, or, not and, or, so this is a second element. He reasons that such force is necessary to prevent the commission of a felony in the dwelling. That's why we have that protection. It doesn't have to say we have to retreat or anything. All right, everybody understand that? And this little section just basically says that someone you protect your dwelling like that, and you shoot someone, they can't come and sue you. Obama put this in a lot of one of the laws he did when he was state senator, saying, hey, they can't turn around and sue you, come in your house and you stopped them, and you shot them. Now they're going to turn around and sue you. You can't do it. All right. Concealed carry, for anybody watching it, is 21 years of age. You got to get a FOID card, okay? And you don't have to have it. You can apply for the same time. You're going to take a 30-day photo in the last 30 days, and then a training certificate showing 16 hours or equivalent. Anybody military guys in here? You only have to take 8 hours. You're exempt for the first 8 hours. So you only have to take an 8-hour class. All right? For everybody else, it's 16 hours. And then the fee's $150 for the application. Now, whatever the concealed carry company that you go to, they're going to charge you a fee for the class for 16 hours. You know, they range in price, but so the state is $150, and then it's good for 5 years, and then you're going to have to renew every 5 years and take a 3-hour class.
So sometimes it expounds a little bit past you disclosing that you're a concealed carry holder and you're armed with a firearm. Because you guys got to remember, this law is new to you guys, it's also new to law enforcement. So like Lieutenant Mayton stated, majority of law enforcement officers are pro-concealed carry, but it's still new. So during the course of a patrol duty or a patrol shift, anytime you're dealing with a subject with a gun, whether it be a citizen that's legally armed or whether it be a suspect, it still tends to sometimes elevate emotions and elevate a little bit heightened sense of awareness. So just so you guys know, if you are pulled over by a police officer and the interaction goes according to, just like Lieutenant Mayton stated, you disclose that you're a concealed carry holder and you let the officer know that you have a weapon in your vehicle or you have a weapon on your person. If that police officer asks you to step out of the vehicle for his safety or your safety, remember, you must comply with all lawful orders from police officers. It's United States Supreme Court law. Now, that's not stating that that officer can, in turn, search your car and violate your Fourth Amendment rights, which protects you from unlawful searches and seizures. But just remember that any lawful orders that a law enforcement officer gives you while you're interacting with the police, you must comply. Because at the end of the day, a traffic stop is still an investigative stop. You know, whether you're on a domestic and you advise the officer that you're a concealed carry holder, if the officer asks you to step out the vehicle, that's a lawful order. He can ask you to, you know, keep the weapon in your car, or if you have the weapon on your person, that law enforcement officer can temporarily detain you. You can't refuse that. All right, it's for officer safety. Now, once the course of the investigation is over, if you haven't committed any weapons violations or you know, you're not subject to an arrest, once the conclusion is over, the law enforcement officer can return your weapon. He may not hand it back to you if he decides he wants to put it in your glove compartment or your you know, in your bag or a case inside the vehicle to where it's not immediately accessible for his safety and yours. That is well within, you know, his rights as a peace officer. Now, and I just want to say that to pound that in people's heads, because sometimes people believe that if a law enforcement officer asks you to step out your car, it's a violation of your rights, and then it comes into a back and forth match as far as, well, I don't have to do that, or you're violating my rights. If at the end of that interaction with the police officer, if you feel as if your rights were violated in any such a way, what can you always do at the end of it? You can always file a complaint. You can always ask to speak to a supervisor. But during the course of that interaction, if the law enforcement officer asks you to step out the vehicle, it's not a violation of your Fourth Amendment rights. If he asks to temporarily disarm you, just for during the course of the investigation, that's well within his rights, all right? So I just need everybody to remember that, all right? And that's not just for traffic stops, it's anytime a law enforcement officer is conducting any form of investigation, all right? Anybody got any questions on that? Yes, sir.
Okay, the police officer put his hand on your gun, he did a fingerprint.
Essentially, I guess.
Okay.
So hopefully that weapon wouldn't have to be sent to the crime lab for fingerprints and,
Yeah, so when you get stopped by a police officer and you have a gun, and then they ask you to step out the car. So I've seen it on TV that sometimes they put you in cuffs, or they'll, while they do their check. Is that always a rule to do that way?
No, that's not always a rule. Like I say, it is a new law to law enforcement officers, and you gotta remember, law enforcement officers are individuals. So some are gonna respond to a concealed carry holder different. Me personally, I've had traffic stops where I've spoken to the driver, he's advised me that he's a concealed carry holder and he's got it on his person, and it's just for a speeding violation. I conduct that stop just as a regular speeding violation. You speak the obvious and say don't pull it out, but you conduct it as a regular speeding violation. But you have some that will ask you to step out of the vehicle. That's a lawful order. You have some that will, in furtherance, ask to temporarily disarm you. That's a lawful order. And you also have some that will temporarily put you in restraints for your safety and theirs. That's a lawful order. It's a little step further. I understand it's very invasive, and at that point, like I say, always comply, but at that point, that's when you ask yourself, is this something, do I feel was out of protocol? But it is still, a typical, investigative tool for a law enforcement officer.
So how do you deal with people who have, like, for instance, anxiety? Like anxiety for being, like, I don't like to be restrained.
Right, confined, restrained.
I don't like to, yeah. So if I say, hey, I don't like to be restrained, I can comply with whatever you say, just don't cuff me. Because I know there's a lot of times when you have people that you have to deal with that have mental illnesses that maybe you may not necessarily know. I'm not saying I do, but I've seen it where things have went wrong because they didn't know. So in terms of people who have, I'm one of my
Right, anxiety,
I
mental
don't
issues,
like to be,
things of that nature.
yeah.
I'm hoping that you wouldn't find yourself in that situation and you would be dealing with a law enforcement officer that wouldn't take it to a step to where it's uncomfortable. But unfortunately, if that law enforcement officer gives you that command or that lawful order, hopefully we wouldn't be dealing with this on a traffic stop or anything to where you wouldn't be subject to arrest. But I can't speak for all law enforcement officers. So sometimes it is part of the citizen's responsibility to make sure things don't escalate. I know, police officers, we're trained, we're supposed to de-escalate situations, but, you just can't guarantee that. Y'all dealing with a myriad of individuals. So, like I say, at the end of that, if you're on a regular traffic stop and just from you telling that law enforcement officer, I'm a concealed carry holder, I have my firearm on me, and it goes all the way to the point where you're being placed in restraints, and you disclose that you have a mental health issue, that would be something that, at the end of that, me personally, I would be, trying to file some type of complaint, But in the meantime, if he's standing on that and it's seeming like it's going to escalate, just comply with the law for it. You can always deal with it on the back end. Okay, she good? Yes.
My question, I was just asking, isn't it still under the officer's discretion how he obtained that individual? As if you, like she just said, I understand how you may pull a person over and that person gets aggressive, but it's still up to that officer, to make that decision of how that officer will handle that.
That's correct.
Right.
That's correct. As long as he's acted within the scope of his powers as a sworn peace officer, like I say, it is his discretion. So, just the main key point is just comply feel like something was done out of violation of policy or protocol, you can always file a complaint on the back end. But whenever we're dealing with firearms being involved in any capacity, it's always best to just keep the escalation low. You would hope that the law enforcement officer is the person that is able to keep the escalation level low, but that's not always the case. I'm not gonna sit here and act like every peace officer is just a cool cucumber. You do have some that elevate, and for your safety, it's at that point you say, you know what, let me calm down. Let me, do what this guy's asking. But at the end of the day, I'll go speak to a supervisor, or I'll come in and follow up with the chief of police or something like that. Anybody else? Oh, yes, ma'am.
I'm just wondering, if you have a concealed and carry and you have your firearm on you and you're stopped by the police, and you tell them this in the first place, or when they stop you, and then the policeman wants to see it, can you tell the policeman, I do not want to hand my weapon to you, I'll set it down? Because I don't think anyone should be handing your weapon.
And that's a good point. I would hope law enforcement officers are not asking you if they're going to disarm you to physically hand it to you, because now at that point, they've created a.
I mean, if they just say they want to see, and that's fine, but.
Yeah, if they want to see it, or if they want to physically disarm you temporarily, that's a lawful order.
But can I tell them I want to set it down?
No, because.
Just follow the directions of the
Right, just follow the direction of the officer. Now, some may say, put it in your glove compartment. Some may say that and allow you to handle it. That's not out of the norm. But, as far as you stating, I don't want to physically hand it to you, that is something that you could voice at that time. I'm not, disobeying an order. I'm just telling you, for my safety, officer, I don't want to place my hand on this weapon. Can you disarm me? Or, can I put it in this glove box? But I don't want to physically hand it to you.
Yeah, I can't see that happening. If they want your gun, there's a reason for it. It could be that maybe they have a warrant early, you put in a script or something. But normally they're just gonna say, okay, that's fine. No one's gonna ask you. And if they're asking you, there's a reason they're not gonna have you handle the firearm. They'll disarm it.
Anybody else? All right, guys. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you. All right, we're going to get to the fun part. Anybody ever remember seeing that viral video of the DEA agent in front of a classroom? And he says to the students, he picks up the weapon, he says, I'm the only one in here that's qualified to handle this firearm. Then he commences to shoot himself in the foot. Everybody remember that? That is not what's going to happen here. And the reason I say that, just for the edification of those who came in after the safety talk, we did a safety check of all the firearms that are in here to make sure that they are empty, the magazines are out, the actions are open, and the ammunition is someplace else. There is not one live round of ammunition inside this building. Because at some point in the next few minutes, we're going to handle these firearms, those of you that brought them. And I want to make sure that everyone is comfortable enough to know that us as professionals, we check these firearms to make sure that they were empty and safe. Okay? So for this next part, as we get into this, if you are uncomfortable by seeing the handling of firearms, this is the point where you can leave or go into your car and wait until this part is over. Okay? I'm just giving you that opportunity. If you are uncomfortable, this is the time to leave. Okay? All right, so the next part we're going to talk about are the styles of firearms. There are the semi-automatic firearms, there are revolvers, there are rifles, there are shotguns, and you have to figure out for yourself which one is comfortable for you. And just as an example, some of these firearms, Lieutenant Maytown, will you check this weapon one more time to make sure it's empty? Okay, this weapon is empty. Okay, this is the cylinder, this is where the ammunition goes. There is no ammunition in here. So as I'm handling this, I'm going to handle it in a safe manner. Anytime we handle firearms in anywhere, whether it's on a range, in the house, whatever, you never want this part to be pointed at anyone, even if the firearm is empty. Because there's a saying that unloaded firearms still kill, because someone is complacent about checking that firearm to make sure that it's empty. But this firearm, I can say without a doubt, as you can see, is empty, okay? And you never want it to be aimed at anyone. Even if you're just casually handling it, never let that muzzle cross anybody, okay? All right, this is called a revolver. This revolver does not have a hammer on it, but most revolvers do have what's called a hammer on it. You cock it back, and you pull the trigger, and it goes off. This is probably one of the easiest weapons to be able to handle, because all it takes is just to push up a button, open the cylinder, put the ammunition in, and close it, and fire it until it goes dry. In other words, it's empty, okay? This is not a complicated weapon at all. I would highly recommend that for anyone not familiar with firearms, especially semi-automatic firearms, because those are a little bit more complicated. Lieutenant Baton, will you check this weapon?
What's the name of that?
This is a Smith & Wesson, but revolvers are made by all kinds of manufacturers.
Yeah, okay.
Ruger's a popular manufacturer. Smith & Wesson is probably the most popular. Colt.
You know, also remember, that little gun right there, that packs a wallet, a kick. So if you're thinking of like the ladies, that might be too much of a gun for you. The heavier they are, the more the gun's gonna take the recoil. Where that gun's, your arm's gonna take the recoil in your hands, you're gonna feel it.
This is a 38. That's the caliber of the round that goes in here, 38 caliber. This next firearm, Lieutenant Maton just checked it. The slide is back. That means there's nothing in there, and there is no magazine. The magazine is what holds the ammunition. As you can see, where sir, you can verify. Okay, this is an empty firearm, but this is a semi-automatic pistol. What semi-automatic means is every time I pull the trigger, it will cycle, inject another round, and it will continue to do that as long as you pull the trigger. When you run out of ammunition, this is what it looks like. The slide goes back to the rear, okay? But what it takes to get this to operate is you have to put the magazine in, hit the slide release, and then if it malfunctions, you have to have the ability to pull this slide to the rear to operate it. Now what happens in some cases, and especially for the ladies, if you don't have the arm strength to pull the slide to the rear, you won't be able to operate the semi-automatic pistol. That's why I would recommend going to a revolver. If you have trouble operating this slide, because it does take a little bit of strength, grip strength, and arm strength to be able to pull it to the rear. Lieutenant, will you check this firearm? I'll take the magazine out. That's what I just showed you is a 45 caliber. It's a big bullet, and it does pack a wallop, and you will feel the recoil. The bigger the bullet, the more recoil. This is also a 45, but it's in a smaller frame. This is more concealable. So those of you that have a concealed carry permit, this is easier to hide on your body or on your person or inside a purse or a bag or something like that. So this is the same deal, semi-automatic pistol. To operate it, you would insert the magazine that has the ammunition. You hit the slide release, which sometimes is difficult to do, but you still also have to have the ability to operate this slide, okay? This is something that you would have to practice and also make sure that it fits your hand. So what we're going to do right now is fit in operation. So those of you that do have your weapons with you, the slide should be locked to the rear. You have that? If you have your pistol with you, slide's locked to the rear. Less than lethal? Okay, I'm going to touch on that real quick. They make weapons that contain pepper balls. Pepper balls are an irritant. It's just like spraying mace or pepper spray at someone, except it's in the form of a weapon. It's a pepper ball. It is called non-lethal. So in other words, if you hit somebody or shoot somebody with it, it won't kill them, but it will just release the gas, the pepper, and it irritates them. As far as being involved in a deadly force situation, I would not recommend that. If you're a concealed carry weapons holder, it's basically fighting fire with fire. You don't want to bring a knife to a gunfight, so lack of a better term. But just as far as having it for some type of personal protection, just like carrying pepper spray, it's only in the form of a projectile now. So I don't recommend it for deadly force situations. If you really want to protect yourselves and you have a concealed carry permit along with your FOID, then I would suggest carrying a firearm. Okay? So those of you that do have your firearms out, if you can go ahead and just stand up for me, please. Sorry, we can't do this sitting down. Okay. So instructors, this is where I'm going to need your assistance. Okay. So go ahead and pick your firearms up. Make sure the muzzle stays straight up in the air. Okay. Point it straight up. Now hold your hand and make sure that it fits your hand comfortably. Okay. Instructors, if you can check their grips. Check their grip. And also to see if they are comfortably holding it, go ahead and have the slide go home. Let the slide go forward. No, keep it up, keep it up. Keep it up. Okay, all right, go ahead. You know, she doesn't want to use that one. Stick the, which is exactly what we spoke about. She has a semi-automatic pistol and she has a hard time operating the slide. So which is why she has a smaller pistol. You can go ahead and pick that up. Just a little difficult. Can you help me with the slide?
Yeah.
The slide release.
So,
As you were holding this firearm,
are you guys hitting the slide stop here?
your trigger finger remains outside of the trigger well at all times. Even when you get on target, that finger stays out until you're ready to take your target down.
That's not going to work that way. So what you're going to have to do is pull back a little bit. Just pull back and let go.
Okay.
So when you
Keep the finger off the trigger.
when you're going to do this, you don't want to. We pull back. You can do it over the top like this or like this. When we pull back, we don't want to hold on to it. That's called riding the slide. That's going to cause a misfeed. What we want to do is pull it back and let go. Right?
So on some of these smaller semi-automatic pistols, the slide release is 99.9% geared towards a right-handed shooter. Okay. Very rarely have I seen a pistol that has one built for a left hand. It would be ambidextrous, a slide release on both sides, but I haven't rarely seen one that's built for a left-handed shooter unless it is completely custom made. So this slide release is a tiny piece of metal that you have to operate with your thumb or the thumb of the other hand. And like I said, sometimes it's difficult if you don't have that muscle memory to be able to do that. So what we have in here was difficulty getting a slide release. So what would we do is, just like Lieutenant said, pull it back and just let it go so that it can strip the round and put the round in the chamber. Okay. Now, as you're holding these firearms, is it comfortable? Are you able to hold it comfortably where it's not feeling like it's too big or too small to be able to handle it when you actually fire these weapons? Everybody comfortable with the grip on your firearm? Okay, go ahead and pull your slides to the rear, lock them to the rear, and go ahead and place them on the table. All right, you can go ahead and sit back down. Now, storing your firearm for maximum safety. Some of you can get a little help. Get a little help right there.
Trying to do it walk back.
Yeah.
For maximum safety, some of you may have little ones in the home. Some of you may have little ones that visit you, even if you're an empty nester. Have a safe somewhere where you can lock the firearm under a combination lock or some kind of lock and key. But also, we have gun locks, and I'm going to bring Trustee Holmes up here. He's going to talk about that a little bit. He has a little gift for everyone. Then we're going to get back to it. Trustee Holmes, if you want to come up. We have had incidents where a child has gotten their hands on a firearm and has injured or killed themselves or accidentally injured or killed someone else near them. Another child playing with a gun or even their parents. We have actually had those incidents happen here in Dolton. So we take gun safety. Yeah, we had that incident in Food for Less not too long ago. Child got his hands on the gun that was under the seat and slid to the back. He picked it up and accidentally shot his mom in the back and killed her. These are very real incidents. Very real incidents. So when we have complacency with firearms, someone can end up seriously injured or killed. So if you have a firearm in your home, you are responsible. Each and every one of you are responsible for locking that weapon up. And Trustee Holmes is going to talk about this real quick here.
Thank you, Chief. It's real across the United States as far as an unlocked and unsafe gun. People say, mother shot by the child. No way. Yes, it's a way. You know, even people with conceal and carry that's coming over to visit people just for a baseball game or a basketball game, you have a right to tell that person when he comes to your home, okay, you have a conceal and carry, keep your gun outside. The reason I say that because when there's alcohol involved and drugs, it's a big problem. Drinking and driving don't mix, guns and kids don't mix. And that's a true factor. And I tell them, keep your guns outside if you want safety in your home, especially if you got company coming over and consuming alcohol. Because they consume too much and that weapon is laid on that table or laid in that bathroom. Just yesterday, Joliet, 2-year-old got a hotel gun, unprotected, and that gun hit that little boy in the face. He's still fighting for his life. So I'm asking, and I do this everywhere I go, and I'm going to be giving everyone a gun safety lock if they don't have one, because you got to save your kids and you got to save your life. And as the chief stated, this is happening in other states. Father or mother coming home from work, don't want to take that gun inside that house. The first thing they do when they park that car, they throw that gun up under that seat or they put that gun in the back of the seat backpack. But either the mother or the father forgets they got that gun in that car, and one of them taking the kids to the store or to the school, and they're in the back seat. They get a hold of that weapon, whether it's on the floor or whether it's in that pouch back there. And before you know it, when they looking through that rearview mirror and hollering, oh, and hit them brakes, that gun goes off while it's in that child's hand. You know, you done lost your mother, you done lost your father, but due to negligence, that's why it's safety, safety, safety. I've been giving out over thousands and thousands of these wherever I go. Before shootings happen and after shooting happen. I'm at some schools throughout the city and suburbs, parents pulling up, getting their children. Just passing a gun lock. Well, I don't own a gun lock, but take one anyway. Someone may come over to your house with a conceal and carry, and you allow them to come in with that conceal and carry. If you're not going to put it up, then have them to lock it, because it's your kid's life that's in jeopardy right here. So it's safety, 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 and we have to fight that. As the chief and the instructors instruct about these guns and how to use them, but at the same time, when that alcohol, when you consume too much, you forget about your children, and the person that's over there forget about your children too. Because see, if an argument happens, the first thing they're gonna do is grab that weapon. Or if the argument don't happen, they're gonna consume too much, showing that gun off to your friends. Oh, where you got that one? I gotta get that one, but he forgot. He's intoxicated. Lays that gun right there. Here comes Junebug. Junebug grab the gun. It goes off. It's too late. Safety, safety, safety. So I do have these locks. Everybody can get one before you leave here today. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Going back to the reason that we're doing this. You have to protect yourself. You have a family, you have yourself, you protect your life. We know what's out in the street. We know there's bad guys out there. We know there's people that want what you have.
That's true.
And they may stop at nothing to get into your house, home invasion, to rob you. You have to protect yourself. You have to. And I will tell you, standing here as a police officer, if that has ever happened to you, or when that happens to you, the police will not be there at that point to help you. I'm telling you this as a police officer. We won't be there until you call us, because we cannot be everywhere at the same time. We wish we could. So you have to rely on yourself at that moment, in that moment, to protect yourself and your family. And then you can call us after you handle the business of keeping yourself and your family safe. Okay? Now the next part on the agenda I call storing for action. So if you have little ones in the house, of course, absolutely, you want to lock that weapon up completely. Put the gun lock in it, put it in the safe, shut that safe, and make sure that those children don't have access to the combination to that safe or the keys to that safe. or wherever you hide the keys to that safe, that they don't know where you hide these keys. Because children are curious and they will explore, because that's what kids do. That's their job. That's what they do. And they won't find those keys unless you are determined to hide them in a place where they cannot get to them, or a higher place where they cannot reach them. Okay? All right, so storing for action. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I got a quick question.
Yeah.
So when it comes to like you said, a lot of kids are curious when it comes to firearms and everything. So with that being said, what do you think is appropriate age?
Oh, appropriate age for what?
Introducing your kids into firearms.
That is a choice. That's a very good question. Glad you asked that. That is a choice made by the parent of when you think your child is mature enough to be able to be introduced to firearms. If it's too young, they're not going to get it. If they're at an age where they completely understand, the first thing that you should be talking about, even before you show your child the firearm, is safety, 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 safety. These things are dangerous. These things will kill. These things are too dangerous. But I'm going to show you how to defend yourself. I'm going to show you how to use this. And safety should be the most paramount thing that you teach when it comes to showing your child weapons. So I can't give you an answer on what the age is appropriate. Whenever the parent thinks the child is mature enough to be able to handle that type of information. So hopefully that kind of answered your question. Okay. Stored for action. My wife and I were empty nesters. Basically, we have no youngins at home. We don't have any young children. But when young children do visit us, grandchildren, the weapons get locked up. They get locked away. But for every night, there may be a pistol on my nightstand. There may be a pistol in my armoire, which is only 2 feet away from me. And it's going to be loaded. And it's going to be ready to go. As far as police officers go, we train to carry weapons with a round in the chamber and ready to go. Because the last thing, when we're faced with a split-second decision, is to pull the weapon out and have to operate that slide. Those are too many seconds lost. So, God bless you. The way we train is so that we can go into action immediately. And that's how I keep my weapons at home, to go into action immediately. You don't necessarily have to do that. When Lieutenant Mayton talked about someone entering your home, if someone enters your home in the legal terms in a riotous manner, meaning they either broke a window, forced the door in, or forced their way in somehow, you have a right to defend yourself. When they do that, what I would recommend is not going to hunt down that person that attacked your home. I would not recommend going through your house with a flashlight searching for the attacker. My recommendation, this is just my recommendation, is to find a good safe spot in your home, have yourself ready and armed, call the police. And if the attacker finds you and goes for you, that is when you defend yourself. Don't go searching for the attacker through your home, because guess what? You may end up finding that attacker. And that attacker, if you're not ready to go into action, that attacker can take that weapon from you. And next thing you know, you're either killed, injured, or your family is put in grave danger. Okay? So stored for action. That's how I'm ready. I'm ready to go. Round in the chamber. I don't have to rack the slide. I'm just ready to go. Now, I'm trained to go through and clear a house to look for an offender. But if you're not trained that way, you may want to give a warning. Hey! Who's in my house? You may have to do that. I have a gun and I'm calling the police. Leave now. Give that information. Give that warning. Give it loud enough. If your goal is to remain safe and not have to shoot someone in your home, give loud, clear commands. Who's in my house? Get out of here. I have a gun. I'm calling the police. That may be just a warning good enough to get them out of your house. But when you call 911, you tell them who you are. I'm a homeowner, someone who's just in my house. I am armed. I have a gun. They will tell you what to do from that point on. They will tell you what to do. Because what you don't want to do is chase someone out of your house with a gun in your hand, and the police show up. Bad guy's gone, but who are we looking at? You look like the bad guy. And guess what we're going to do? We're going to deal with, no, we're not going to shoot you just like that. We're going to deal with you. put the gun down. If you don't comply, you may get shot. There's been situations where undercover officers are on scene and they have their gun out, and if they're, especially in Chicago, all those officers don't know each other. They see someone with a gun, they don't know it's a cop, but guess what? They're gonna take care of business as if there was a bad guy. So you don't want to be seen as a bad guy in your home. Do not chase attackers out of your house. If you see someone breaking into your garage, don't go out there chasing them with a gun or trying to take care of business with a gun. A garage, whether it's attached or detached, is not part of your dwelling that you live inside of. Call the police, have yourself armed and ready just in case. Yes,
So
sir.
actually, if you see somebody in a race and, you're not permitted to carry a gun outside, that's a violation.
If you are a concealed carry
You can't,
permit holder,
okay?
you can carry your weapon outside.
Yeah.
If you only have a firearms owner identification card, that is giving you permission to own a weapon and have it inside your house.
Okay.
Or if you are a business owner, not an employee
Yeah.
or manager, if you own a business, you can have a firearm in your business without having a concealed carry permit. But you can't exit your business. In other words, even if you get robbed, you can't chase the offender down the street with your weapon. You cannot go across that threshold with your weapon at all. So, no, you cannot, you should not go out trying to investigate a burglary that's happening to your garage. What you should train yourself to do is be the best witness possible.
Okay.
It was a 5'7" guy who weighed 200 pounds. He has on a black shirt, pink shoes, and a red hat. Be the best witness possible. Yes.
Okay, I reported something like that. I was the one got handcuffed with no shirt on, no pants on, sitting in the police car. Go look for the bad guy.
So when you call
So
in,
he already
the
seen
bad guy don't have on a shirt.
He already seen me naked. I called him. I'm in my shorts.
We're going to talk about interaction too on that note. All right. So the next thing we're going to talk about real quick is how to carry. If you're a concealed carry permit holder, how do you carry that weapon? How? Do you put it in your pocket, back pocket, your bag, your backpack? I do not recommend just putting a firearm in your pocket. Even though there's some things called pocket pistols, they're small enough to put in your pocket, I always recommend a holster. In the wintertime, when you have on a jacket that's long enough, you can have a holster on your side, just the way some of the officers are. Officer Palmer, see the way Officer Palmer is right there? He has a pistol on his side. It's in a holster that's called outside the waistband.
Right.
Outside the waistband is acceptable if it's covered up. If you have on a jacket that's long enough to cover the bottom of it, it's acceptable. Because it is still what? Concealed.
Okay.
Optimum term, concealed. That means it has to be hidden from view. Question?
Are y'all gonna ever have like, you know, how they customize your holsters, like your event? Like, where they customize your gun to your holster, the holster to your gun?
Probably.
Like, she had went to an event, and she had a customized, and she won't tell me where she got it done.
There's a lot of places you can find that will customize the holster. It depends on what the holster is. And we can talk about that was part of my next segment, is talking about the holster. This right here, what I just showed you is like he has, is considered outside the waistband. What firearms fits this? Again, empty, no magazine, nothing in the chamber, right? This weapon, this holster is designed for this weapon. It clicks in and it sits on my side. And in order to get the weapon out, I practice this one finger to release it and pull it out. Okay? And whenever that comes out of the holster, this finger stays where? Off of the trigger until what? Until I'm ready to shoot. Okay? But that's what that holster is. Just like that. Now they make leather holsters. They make what's called Kadura. Basically is nylon. Just like that with a little strap. This one right here has a clip on the right. This is for a right-hander. And this goes inside the waistband. So it can be concealed. There's another holster I have. It's inside the waistband. So basically, wherever I carry it, where I carry appendix, what's called appendix carry right here, or at 3 o'clock, or at 4 o'clock. if you're right-handed. If you're left-handed, you can obviously get a left-handed holster and carry it in a different spot. So being concealed, and again, empty firearm, concur? Yes, sir. Okay. Basically, can you tell that I'm carrying? It's concealed.
I can't.
Because you know where to look, right? And what we call printing is if you wear clothes that are too tight for it, you can see it, right? But if my shirt is loose enough and I'm just bopping around town, just going to, I don't know, going to the grocery store or whatever the case is, you really won't know, right? But it's in a spot where I know that I can get to it immediately, and it's out and it's ready to go. Okay? So with that, another style of holster is called the belly band. This would go underneath your shirt, and basically your pistol, whatever size it is, would go here. And this is a Velcro fastening. It just goes around the body. Yes. You pull your shirt over it, and basically you're still concealed. It's called a belly band. Inexpensive. Then you can get to really expensive holsters that might cost you a couple $100. But here's the one thing about the holsters and carrying weapons. And ladies, it's especially difficult for you. If you do a waistband carry, inside the waistband or outside the waistband, most women will not carry that way because you carry purses sometimes, or you carry some kind of carry bag, and they make such accessories, especially to hold weapons. There's a small zipper where you keep your weapon, but the one thing about holsters and packs like that, you have to practice. You just cannot buy a weapon and just let it sit until you're ready because you won't know how to operate it. You have to practice. What I just did, when I pulled my weapon out and went into action, I practiced that. So that I'm not out there fumbling around. If something happens, I can go into action just like that. I'm not going to drop my weapon. I'm not going to fumble with it. You have to practice with it. If you have a firearm, if you own a firearm, if you are thinking about a firearm, take the shooting lessons, and after that, practice at home. You don't always have to go to the range either. All you have to do, put a little piece of tape on your wall, and guess what? Practice aiming it. Get those sights right there. Just practice aiming it. Practice aiming it over and over until it's second nature. The second part of that is practicing how to put it back. If you're out there on the street and you get into a situation, you have to shoot or fire, whether you hit somebody or not, you do not want to be holding that firearm when the police arrive. Guess what? Put it back where it came from. Put it back where you got it from. You have to practice that. Shooting and that manipulation, even though those fine motor skills, it is a perishable art. And what I mean by perishable, if you don't practice it, you lose it. Okay?
All right, can I interrupt one?
Yes.
So for the ladies, I know you said there's people that they have bags that they sell that are with holsters in them, and they're not always the best looking bags. So it's a lot of times you're not going to buy something like that. You know,
It's not fashionable.
It's not fashionable, right? You're going to put your gun in your Prada bag. Put it in a holster. Do not put your gun in your bag without it being in a holster. Okay, it has to have some kind of holster, because what's going to happen is your keys are going to get in there and you're going to have a discharge. You're trying to pull it out. Keys, lipstick are going to discharge that firearm every time. So it'll if you do it, it'll eventually happen that you'll have discharge, and hopefully you don't shoot yourself or somebody else. Yeah.
If the keys are in the bag or
Same thing if you're for guys and you're sticking it in your pocket. Get a pocket holster.
Some
Don't
people
just
get
stick it in
caught
your
on the
pocket. It'll get, so be careful with that.
Okay. Next, before we get to this, let's because this is the last part. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I have a quick question. Now, if you wind up taking your gun out and releasing it and shooting, shouldn't you set it down so if the police come, or you don't want to put it back in your holster, do you?
You can put it back in your holster, but all you have to do is just make sure you tell the officer what happened. Okay? You can put it back in your holster. I would not just say set your gun down.
No, I mean set it down where you're at. Since you.
There may be people around And Pookie and Dog might be out there, and they might want your gun more than you do. So somebody can pick it up. You do not want to put it down just so somebody can come and pick it up, even though you're standing on top of it and watching it, okay? And a lot of times, when people are attacked, or targeted, I should say, it's not always just one attacker out there. They operate in teams. It could be two, it could be three. These carjacking teams out there, they operate with almost like 4 or 5 people in their crews. They operate just like that. You may be focused on one offender, and guess what? Yes, question.
So just like you said, it's typically more than one attacker. So for females, would you really recommend them carrying in a purse? Because as a bad guy or a robber, if I'm going to rob a female, the first thing I'm going to go for is a purse, because that's what all do that.
It is absolutely a personal choice on how you want to carry a firearm. I do not recommend carrying it in a bag.
And I'm a woman, I don't never carry my gun in my bag. It's no use to me if it's in my purse, personally speaking.
And sometimes that purse or that bag is the target. Not the person, but the bag is the target. So you have to be careful, but you have to make educated decisions on how you carry your firearm. You may not always carry it the same way all the time. Sometimes I carry it here, sometimes I carry it here. It depends on what I'm wearing. It basically does depend on what I'm wearing. And it may also depend on which firearm I do carry. Sometimes I might carry the big 45 while I'm on duty, but when I'm off duty, I'll carry the smaller 45, just so it's more concealable. But nothing says that I can't carry the big 45. But here's the other trick, is if you're faced with a deadly force encounter, you do not immediately want to go to that weapon to say, get back, stay back, I have a gun. And the reason I say that is some people may be mentally challenged, they may be on drugs, and they do not care or even see that you have a weapon and continue to advance towards you. They may not have a weapon in their hands, it may not be a threat, but once they get to you, if you're not ready to put that thing in action, they can take it from you. And either run away, or shoot you with it, or shoot somebody else with it. If you go places, you may encounter a place where you can't take your firearm into. Who likes to go to the library? Who goes to a school to visit sometimes? You can't take your weapons in those places, right? So if you have to leave it in your car, I see a safe right there. This is called a gun safe for a car. What you would do, you probably wrap it around some sturdy object in your car, like underneath the seat where it's bolted to the floor. Put that through there, and the next part goes into here. You put your firearm in here, you lock it up, keep it under the seat. When you come back out, you can take it back out. If there's a place where you can't take the firearm, don't take chances. Don't take chances on getting arrested. You're the good guys, good girls with the guns. Don't become a bad guy with the gun. Yes?
When I go out of town, I prepare my weapon, but I just leave it in there like that.
The size of this is what we call a pocket pistol, because it really can't fit inside my pocket, but I would never want to do that. However, let me do something real quick, okay? With a tiny holster like this, I can still put this in my pocket, right? You still don't know. I mean, I could still hook this clip. I can still hook this clip on my pants pocket. You still don't know.
Does that work on either side?
Depends on the holster.
Seem to be like a discrimination against us
Lefties, there are products out there for you. You just have to find them and make sure that they work for you. Also, when you wear a holster, you have to have it nice and fitted. But when you pull that weapon out, you don't want this coming out with it, right? What good is this, right? You don't want it coming out with it. All right, so back to the car safe. I would take it off my person, make sure it's pointed in a safe area. I don't have to actually unload it or anything. Just put it in there, close it, lock it, and take it with you. Somebody who breaks into your car, they're gonna have a heck of a time or a long time trying to work on this. Nobody really knows that you have a weapon in your car, right? So they're not bringing wire cutters with them or cable cutters. They're gonna try to yank it or whatever. If I see this, I know it's a gun too, because I have experience with that. Others, just randomly breaking in cars, may not know. They might think money's in here and just try to yank it, but it's not coming apart, okay? Unlock it, take it back out, make sure you put it in your, whatever you're carrying it with, and then you just close it, lock it, leave it under your seat. Okay? Questions about the gun safe? Yes?
The part that you connected to, what part under the seat that you can connect it to that doesn't interfere with like the seat moving back and forth depending on the driver that you have?
If you have to move your seat back and forth, try a different location in the car that you can lock it to. Maybe the other seat, the passenger side seat. So I wouldn't recommend taking it to your trunk because people do watch you. They may watch you doing this, putting it in there, close the trunk, and guess what? Oh, there's a pistol in the car. Let's go attack that trunk. Okay? Is there another question? I thought I saw another hand. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, my question would be, Chief, when we did a couple of years ago, when you did the workshop on the door alarms, what was that, you gave references on where those items can be purchased. Will you do the same for?
For firearms?
Yes.
Okay. Riverdale has a gun store called Chuck's Guns, I think. What is it? Chuck's Guns?
Yes,
Yeah.
Chuck's Gun Shop?
Yes, sir.
Old Forest has a place called Eagles. There's a place called Pelcher's in Lansing. Cabela's is in Hammond. Bass Pro Shop is in Bolingbrook. So there's a lot of places that you can go. But Sauk Village, there's gun shops everywhere. I think there's still one in Glenwood too. Is that right?
Yeah.
So if you did a Google search, gun shops near me, you can find one. And just because you go there and you search for a weapon and look for a weapon, doesn't mean you have to buy it right then and there. You can go check out a different price. You can look the prices up online and find something reasonable. But you have to go there and make sure that it fits your hand before you just purchase it outright. Some places will give you an opportunity to fire that gun before you make the purchase. Yes, ma'am.
What if you're a traveler?
If you're traveling, that is a good question. Traveler, if you have concealed carry permit, this is incumbent upon you to look up the laws of the state that you are traveling through. Just because Illinois says this, that doesn't mean when you get to Indiana or Wisconsin or other place that it is the same. Because if you get stopped by the police for whatever reason, and they figure out that you're a concealed carry permit holder or you're a FOID card holder and you have a weapon in your car, their laws may be very different from Illinois. So if you're traveling, I would recommend you map out wherever it is you're going and figure out what state you're going through. Look up their laws before you get there. Because you may have to stop before you get to that state line, take your weapon, put it in the case, lock it in the trunk, keep the ammunition separate. Drive through that state and reverse the whole situation. Yes?
I was gonna say, and if you're also talking about traveling on planes, that's what she said. You have to take all the ammunition out. The ammunition has to be packed separate from the gun. And the gun has to be, and it has to go in checked luggage. You cannot bring it through it all.
Yes. That's an airline professional right here. Airline, I'm glad you mentioned that.
So I also piggyback on that. I'm a seasonal ramp agent for Delta Airlines, so I understand how this goes. You know, you have to make sure it's in a locked case. Make sure you're not bringing attention to yourself. It's a very simple process. A lot of people think it's very cumbersome. It's actually not. One thing that you just have to be mindful is that, like she stated, make sure all your rounds are out and that your firearm, if you have an automatic, semi-automatic, that slide is locked to the rear. All right, what's going to happen is you're going to briefly open that case and show the customer service agent. Each airline has a different color card. They're going to issue a card. You're going to complete this card. They're going to put one copy of that card in the safe. They're going to watch you lock it. and then you're gonna retain the other one. Now, typically what happens in most cities, I know in Chicago, once you arrive in that city, that ramp agent is going to physically make contact with you, verify your driver's license, and then hand you your firearm in that city. So it's not gonna be on the conveyor belt, right? It's going to be in a locked case, the same case that you put in your checked bag. So that checked bag is literally gonna go from that ramp agent's hand to your hand upon them verifying your driver's license. So just keep that in mind if any of you guys are interested in traveling with a firearm safely. There's methods to do that. It's actually fairly simple as long as you're doing it correctly.
Good to go? All right. As I mentioned about practicing with firearms, you can practice it. These are inert. In other words, these are dummies. These do not have any powder in them or primers or anything. They're called snap caps. You can get them on Amazon, so you have something to practice with. A lot of firearms, when you continuously pull the trigger without firing it, you can damage your firing pin or other firing mechanism. So you use something called snap caps. Anybody heard of those? Snap caps? All right, good. If you practice at home, which I highly recommend you do, whatever caliber your weapon is, get some snap caps, okay? Go ahead and pass those around. And just take a look and see what they are. They make snap caps in all kinds of calibers. Just pass those down. Again, these are not real rounds. And they make them in shotgun sizes too. This is 12 gauge. What I also recommend for home defense is a shotgun. Shotgun. All right, anybody not know what a shotgun is? Okay. Shotgun is a large bore weapon. It's the length of a rifle, sometimes shorter, sometimes longer. It shoots what's called gauges in rounds. So this particular 12 gauge, and what I would recommend is something called double aught buck. It's 0.0 buckshot. They make small, tiny shots for bird hunting, and they make bigger shot for hunting larger animals or defending your home. So a 12 gauge double aught buck, inside it contains 9 pellets that are almost the size between a 32 caliber and a 38 caliber round. All right, and they come out in a small pattern, 9 pellets, in the direction that you fire the shotgun. Now you still have to aim a shotgun, but it's much easier to aim a shotgun than to have to line up little sights on a pistol, especially if your home is not well lighted, if it's dark, or you're going down the hallway. It's much easier to operate that shotgun. Does it have a little kick to it? Yes, absolutely it does. But it is a powerful defense weapon, very powerful. And I don't mean powerful just it will knock you back. And what you won't see, as they portray on TV, when you shoot someone with a shotgun, they don't fly through the air 50 feet. That is TV. They will just get hit with the rounds, possibly get knocked down, and they may die, or they may survive. But it is a grave injury when you shoot someone with a shotgun. Okay. I did bring a shotgun today. Lieutenant, you want to check this shotgun one more time, make sure that it's empty? Sure. The shotgun chamber is empty. The shotgun tube is also empty. There's nothing in here, okay? Everybody comfortable with that? Okay. So with the shotgun, for home defense, I recommend what's called a tactical shotgun. And what I mean by a tactical shotgun, you ever see bird hunting shotguns? They're about this long. Yeah. You cannot feasibly move around your house with an extra long barrel trying to get around corners. Because if you come around a corner and this barrel is sticking out, if there's an attacker on the other side, guess what? They're just going to take it right from you, okay? But a tactical shotgun has at least 18 and a half inch barrel. It's short. It's shorter than your normal everyday shotgun. They even come shorter than that, and even come with just the pistol grip. Okay? But the shotgun, yes ma'am.
So what? Does that mean sawed-off shotgun?
No. What a sawed-off shotgun is illegal in Illinois. And what a sawed-off shotgun is, let's just say right here to this point, I want this thing cut and short. they saw it off. That's why it's called a sawed-off shotgun. They saw off the length of the barrel, okay? But you can buy a barrel that's shorter legally. Saw it off? No. Buying it legally? Yes, absolutely. So with a tactical shotgun, you can move around your house or protect yourself in the area that's safe, your safe room. Move around to your safe room and just be ready for it to go into action. Okay. Now, there's a limit with the shotgun. Your 9mm, your 40 caliber, or your 45 might hold 9, 10, 15, 20, even 26 rounds, up to 26 rounds. You have more ammunition. With a shotgun, you can only load a few rounds at a time. You got 5, you may have a side carry right here where you can put extras.
Yeah.
But, so when you run out, guess what? If you don't have anything else to back up, you just have this piece of metal in your hand. You can still use it as a weapon. There's tactical shotgun training that we can do where you can use this as an actual weapon. It becomes a club. And I don't mean swinging like a baseball bat, but using it in a tactical manner where it will definitely hurt someone if you run out of ammunition. Okay, so the sights on the shotgun, just like on a pistol, you would line it up and just aim it. You still have to aim the shotgun. You still have to, but not just as precisely as you would a pistol. Okay. Any questions about the shotgun?
What range is that? How many yards?
You can effectively use this up to maybe 50 feet.
Oh,
50 feet.
so that's a pump?
Yeah, this is what's called a pump action shotgun, which means that we're going to load inert rounds, okay?
Okay.
All right. So I would load it
On the bottom?
from the bottom,
Okay.
or if I'm doing a tactical load, I can load from the side.
Okay.
So what would take place is I would rack that round. So now I have the inert round loaded into the chamber, okay? And that's why it's called a pump, because I just pumped it. Now let's say I'm going to go ahead and I got my target, I'm off safe, bam. What happens next to get the next round is, what do I do? Pump it. I'm ready to go. Boom. So that's why it's called a pump action. They do make automatics. They're a little bit more expensive. If you had to get a semi-automatic shotgun, I would recommend the Benelli M4. The Benelli M4. It's nice and tactically short. It'll hold 5 rounds in the chamber tube, but it will recycle by itself. All you have to do is pull the trigger.
Can you spell that name?
Benelli?
Yeah, the D or B.
B with a boy. E. N-E-L-L-I? L-I or L-L-I?
But having that pump is a nice way to get you out of your house.
If you're a concealed carry permit holder, I highly recommend you get insurance. I highly recommend you get insurance. Because if you get into a situation where you have to use that, let's say you're on the street, someone's attempting to carjack you at gunpoint, you have to put your gun in action, you shoot them and kill them. Legally, you may be sound, solid and tight, legally. But there's still the civil ramifications. Because what if Pookie or Dog's family say, you killed my boy, now I'm gonna sue you. Now you're gonna find yourself in civil court having to fight what they would consider a wrongful death case. You're completely in the right legally, you're cleared, not charged, but you still have to fight a civil case. And if you don't have a lot of money put away for an attorney that specializes in that to defend you, then you may just be facing a lot of money coming out of your estate. So I would recommend having insurance. There's many insurance. I can't really recommend one for you. You have to do that research on your own. Get that insurance. It doesn't cost a lot, but it does pay a lot to help you out. You'll get a defense attorney. You'll be able to call an attorney if something happens. I mean, it's just a whole lot of benefits to it. I highly recommend it. The next thing I want to talk about real quick is if you get into a deadly force encounter. You got Lieutenant Mayton touched on it a little bit, but we're really going to dig into what happens to your body when you get into a high stress situation. Can everybody say that okay?
Yes.
And this is geared towards police officers because we do have to find ourselves in high stress situations. It may not be exactly a deadly force situation, but we do get into high stress situations. And this is what happens. So the training objective, you gotta know and understand how your body is gonna react under stress. You have to know these things. Know and understand why your body reacts a certain way. And understand what the sympathetic nervous system is. We're gonna talk about that in a second. Understand fear and how to overcome fear. And survive the encounter. When people are getting robbed, knife point, gun point, dog point, whatever the case is, there's something that goes through your body and happens to you. If you get into a traffic accident, the same type of thing happens to your body. If you see something serious going on, the same type of thing happens to your body. Because your body is reacting to the stress that's being put upon it. What is a deadly force encounter? A threat or perceived threat which requires an action response with the intent of eliminating that said threat, which is likely to cause death or great bodily harm, but mostly death. The body naturally has a fight or flight response. Naturally. It's nothing that you had to learn. You were born with this instinct. Humans are naturally born with fight or flight. It's an animal instinct. You're either going to escape the threat or you're going to fight. Your body will make that decision for you. Here's the physiological response. The sympathetic nervous system. Anybody ever heard that? It's one of the three parts of the autonomic nervous system. This is probably one of the most important that you need to know about right now. There's the enteric, the parasympathetic system, and the sympathetic nervous system. That is the system that is responsible for the fight or flight within your body, the sympathetic nervous system. The first thing it does is cause an adrenaline dump from your adrenal gland. What does adrenaline do to the body? We're about to look at it. Adrenaline is epinephrine. You ever see those doctor shows where they say, give them a shot of epinephrine when they have heart problems or whatever? That's the adrenaline. They're trying to get faster pumping heart. What are the effects? Your heart rate will increase. Why is your heart rate increasing? To pump more blood. So you can pump more blood. Increase blood pressure. When your heart rate goes up, your blood pressure will go up. The dilation of your bronchial passages. Why does that happen? Anybody want to take a guess? Your body needs more oxygen, right? To either fight or run away in flight. Your body needs its oxygen, so your bronchial passages will open. And a release of glucose into your bloodstream. What's that for? It's just an extra shot of energy. You ever see when kids, they have too much sugar, guess what? They're running around like crazy. The same thing. Your body will dump extra sugar into your system so you have extra energy. Activate the sweat glands. Sweat glands are for what? That's your heating and cooling system, right? Because if all of this is happening, the temperature of your body is starting to rise. The body releases heat by doing what? The sweat and the wind that takes the sweat off your body cools your body off. That's what this is for. Dilation of the pupils. This is just a response. Dilation of the pupils. Let me go backwards. Dilation of the pupils is going to cause something that we're going to talk about in just a second. Why your pupils dilate. Your digestive system slows down or it stops completely. Why is that? The body says we have to divert more energy to the muscles. So while your digestive system is not important at that time, it shuts down or it slows down so that energy can be diverted somewhere else in your body. Constriction of the blood vessels, especially in the fine motor skills area. Constriction of the blood vessels. The body is saying, I need more blood and oxygen to go through my heart and my lungs. So it closes off these blood vessels, so not enough blood goes that way, it goes this way, into the core where the body needs it. Sometimes there's a loss of bladder control. You ever see someone where they were so scared that they kind of pissed their pants? That's what happens. The sympathetic nervous system says, we don't need energy there, let it go. So sometimes people urinate on themselves. And then sometimes there's loss of sphincter control. Not in all cases, though. Tachyphylaxis. What that is, you ever have that feeling or know someone that says things seem like they moved in slow motion? Even though it was just normal pace, they just say it seemed like everything was in such slow motion. Or it happened so fast, like extra fast. Tachyphylaxis is your brain's way of writing information, just like a computer, just like a hard drive. Your brain writes information to its memory. And sometimes it slows down, and it perceives to be slowed down, and gives that brain extra time to write that write that information to your brain. Auditory exclusion. It's physiological, and sometimes it's also mental. So what's happening is the brain is shutting down your hearing. You may not hear what's going on around you. So in police officer training, when this happens to us, we train ourselves that when we get that tunnel vision and our hearing goes down, we know we have to look around for the threats because we won't hear it coming. We have to physically train ourselves to do that. So while you are training, when you are training to engage a target, you may also want to throw a little bit in of looking around side to side so that you can just train your body to know that you're looking for threats. Visual exclusion, that's called the tunnel vision. When your pupils dilate, the tunnel vision, that is the brain's way of telling you that that's the focus point of the threat. And I'll give you an example of that. There's been times where we'll take a report, or even in my experience, I've taken a report where somebody's gotten robbed by gunpoint. And we ask them to describe the offender. And they really can't describe the offender, but you know what they can describe? The gun.
Right.
They can describe that gun to a T because that was the threat. That's what they focused on. That tunnel vision focused them right on that piece of hardware that was threatening their life. They can tell me exactly what that gun looked like, but they can't tell me anything about the offender. Not in all cases, but a lot of times that does happen. This is what your tunnel vision will look like. Everything around will black out, and you'll just be focused on what's in front of you, which is why you have to train to turn your head to look for the threats. So what do you do about it when it happens? Well, first, if you know what the effects on your body are, then you know how to deal with it. You know what to expect. If I'm expecting my heart rate to increase, expect my blood vessels to constrict, if I know it's coming, I can deal with it. We talked about that. Control your breathing. What we call tactical breathing or combat breathing. How many veterans in here? I know Lieutenant Mayton, you're a veteran, and Lieutenant Johnson. We've all been in the military. May have seen action, may not have seen action, but if you've seen action, if you've been in the action, when that breathing, you start to hyperventilate, you have to train combat breathing. In other words, and it'll help keep the body under control. You have to resist the urge to panic. When the stuff hits the fan, a lot of people's initial response is to panic. You have to resist the urge to panic. And the way you can do that is train and practice. If you carry a firearm, I would think that you are obligated to know how to put it into use effectively and responsibly. So you have to train. Let's talk about fear for a second. Everybody knows what fear is, right? Yeah. We have fears. We have fears. We have fears of getting robbed. We have fears of someone approaching us. We have those fears. But we have to know what to do with that fear when it happens. Fear, this is geared for police officers, why it says fear of combat. So basically, if you're outside and you're about to get robbed, you're kind of in combat yourself. Person's ability to perform is influenced by several factors. Two of the most important factors are training or lack thereof. If you lack the training, you will panic. You will panic and you will not function or be able to protect yourself or your family. Fear, natural resistance to avoid dangerous conflicts. It's built into us. It's hardwired into our bodies, into our brains. Managing fear. Can fear be controlled? Does anybody believe fear can be controlled?
Yeah.
Yes? I hear yes. I hear, you hear no? You say no? Can fear be controlled? I have yeses and I have nos. There are two emotions that share similar traits. One of them is fear, and the other is what? Anger. They share similar traits. So when you train, sometimes you have to train to convert that fear into anger. And I don't mean uncontrolled anger. Uncontrolled anger is just rage. You have to control it, but it's the anger. Whoever is trying to do this to you, whoever is trying to rob you or harm your family, turn that fear into anger to put that into action and keep yourself safe. So if you have rage and it's uncontrolled, that will usually have deadly results. You make mistakes. You may shoot the wrong person. You may accidentally shoot yourself. So, but everybody can't do it. You have to train and try. There have been incidents, even in military combat and even in law enforcement combat, where officers or soldiers or whoever, when they get shot or injured, they accept that. And they lay down and die. You cannot accept that. You cannot defeat. As long as you can stay in the fight, you can fight. As long as you have something to fight for, you have to continue to fight. You do not accept that I've been shot. I mean, some injuries are incapacitating, but if you get shot in the arm, okay, you're shot in the arm. You stay in the battle and save your life, or save the life of the person you're standing next to or your family. Don't just accept that injury. Don't just lay down and die. Finish the job. Don't accept death. Situational awareness. You got a cat sneaking up on a bird because the bird's not paying attention to what's around it, right? When I say situational awareness, practice this tonight. When you leave this building, when you step out into this parking lot, scan the area, take a look around, see what's around, see who's out there, see what's out there. If you're in a situation where you're coming out of a store, or even coming out of your home and something just doesn't look good because I was looking at it and I saw this, go back in the house. Or be very careful on your way to wherever it is you're going. But know that it's there. Turn your head, look around. You're scanning the area, especially with the holiday season coming up. You go Christmas shopping or whatever the case is, if you don't get all your stuff on Amazon and you actually go to a store, when you get out of that store, someone may approach you while you're putting stuff in your trunk. Because guess where your attention is? In the trunk. You're an easy target. Don't become an easy target. You know what the criminals get to do? They get to pick the time and the place to target you. You have no control over that at all, right? The only thing you can do is be aware of the situations that you're in. That's the only thing you can do. Be aware and be ready. I'm going to talk about PTSD real quick. This isn't very much longer. I know we said 8 o'clock. This isn't very much longer. PTSD is a very real thing. After you get into a situation, even a horrific car crash, you get robbed, something happens, shoot somebody, take their life, whatever, you can get PTSD from that very event. PTSD is post-traumatic stress disorder. It was first looked at in Vietnam. When the veterans were coming back from Vietnam, something was wrong with them. Nobody could really quite put their finger on it. Long ago, they called it shell shock. But the true term right now is post-traumatic stress disorder. And it's triggered by memories of a traumatic event. You get into a deadly force shooting situation, you may have nightmares about that. You may have nightmares about it for a long time, even though you were in the right, even though you had every right to protect yourself and you lawfully did it. You may have those nightmares or those memories. And what those memories can do in true PTSD, those memories make your body have those same reactions as if you were truly experiencing it again. Your body, your heart rate will increase, your pupils will dilate. All these things that we talked about will happen to your body just from the memories of the PTSD. Adrenaline dump, as if things are happening in real time. There was a video, but we're not going to play the video. There's a few books I recommend. We can talk about it if you really want to know. But that's the end of my presentation on that. If you ever have to get into a deadly force situation and you have to call the police, or you should call the police, and the police arrive, somebody asked, not here, but the question has been asked, should we talk to the police? Should I talk to the police? Even though the way you handle it is completely legal, the question is, should I talk to the police? Are they going to try to trip me up? Are they going to try to put me in a trick bag and I get myself charged with murder? If you end up having to take a life, there will be a death investigation. And it's called a homicide. A homicide, by definition, is the killing of a human being. Justifiably, if you did it legally. The difference between homicide and murder is the intent. Did you kill someone because you wanted to kill someone? That's the difference. But should you talk to the police? The police are going to arrive on scene. They're going to ask you, sir or ma'am, can you tell me what happened? We initially do want a little information so we can find out what happened. But I'm going to tell you, with a high-stress situation like this, even for police officers, when they get in a situation like this, it is recommended that you go through 3 complete sleep cycles before you give the rest of the information to the police. Why 3 sleep cycles? It gives your time, it gives your brain time to come down from the event, because when you come down from the event, you start remembering more details. If you try to tell me, as a police officer, you try to tell me everything that happened at night, there's some details that you're going to leave out. Not intentionally, it's just because your brain doesn't remember them at the time. It's in there, but you might not remember it. Now, if I take this to a state's attorney, and then all of a sudden more details came out, you said that the guy had on blue shoes. Clearly, the guy has on green slippers. You must be intentionally hiding something. No, it's because you didn't remember. Let your body go through a complete cycle of sleep 3 times. And then you can give, and we'll know this. We're not going to force you to give information right then and there, because we know what happens in those situations. We may just set up an interview with you 3 days later or 4 days later, whatever the case is. And then you can give the rest of those details. Okay? So you don't necessarily have to think you're going to get locked into a story when the police show up if you have to use your weapon and have to enforce it. Okay? All right. Are there any questions before we break from here? Any questions at all about this subject matter? Okay. Did anybody learn anything today?
Yes.
Would anybody be interested in having further discussions in classes on this?
Yes.
Outstanding. We appreciate you. Thank you for giving us your email addresses. So if we want to put information out about it, you're on our email list so we can tell you about the upcoming things. If you haven't, my assistant back there, Shakira, she has a list that you can sign up on. Name, address, name, email, and phone number. Okay. With that, I want to thank Lieutenant Minton, Lieutenant Johnson, Officer Palmer, Commander Riley, Commander Lacey, Ms. Shakira, Pasco. Commissioner Brown stepped in. We didn't get a chance to acknowledge him. He's one of our fire and police commissioners.
Yes.
So with that, ladies and gentlemen, we'll stick around for a few minutes after to answer your individual questions. You have something else?
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, so when you go to the range, they will have different guns that you can use, because even though I write with my right, the first thing I come with is with my left. And I'm comfortable with stuff on my left.
There are ranges where you can actually rent a firearm for very little, maybe $20 just to rent the firearm, or you might be able to check out several firearms. There are some places where if you say, I want to buy this weapon right here, they may let you shoot 5 rounds through it. Some places just do this so that you're comfortable with it. But because you say you shoot with the other hand and right with the other hand, you'll be able to find something that fits your hand. Now, if you're left-handed, you don't necessarily have to find something with ambidextrous, that's ambidextrous. You can operate the weapon with your right hand. You can do certain things with your right hand, even though you shoot with your left. So, I mean, it just takes practice and training and the right instructor to help you get to those hurdles. Okay?
And I suggest you make your own decision, because I bought 3 before listening to my sons talk about you need this now.
Yeah,
that's a good point. That's a
I
good
know
point.
Rick's gonna raise, it's kind of out of Lockport, it's like $5, I'll let you try a bunch of different ones, but, yeah, what I suggest is you take the class, when you're
Yeah,
taking
yeah.
but don't buy your gun until you take the class.
That's why, right, somebody did tell me, because I had friends tell me about a certain gun, and then it was like, no, because you need to know, you need to have the feel of it.
Try the gun
What's
first,
comfortable,
even
which makes sense.
if you go to a range, like a gun store, and they say, oh, people like this,
Right.
you might not like it, because you gotta shoot it, it could hurt your hand, you know.
Oh, his mom came to get
The
it.
lady at Cabela's helped me.
She was still at the school.
Well, to go to shooting range, you have to have a point card, or bring somebody.
That little 380 you saw me with.